The night skies above Earth had always been beautiful. Children looked at the stars and dreamed of new worlds, new homes, and new friends among them. But one ordinary evening, the stars gave a message that changed everything. It was not a dream. It was a command. From the depths of the galaxy, a signal arrived. At first, scientists thought it was noise, just another strange sound of the universe. But when the signal was decoded, its meaning struck like thunder. It was a voice, cold, sharp, and filled with pride. This is the voice of the Zeroth Dominion, rulers of 10,000 worlds, lords of 1,000 suns. You people of Earth are nothing before us. You will kneel. You will submit your armies, your resources, and your people. You will obey us as countless others have obeyed before. Refuse, and your world will be erased from existence. The message spread across the planet faster than fire. News channels repeated it again and again. Radios carried it to the most distant villages. Screens in giant cities played the words until every man, woman, and child had heard them, and with every repetition, the same emotions grew: fear, shock, and disbelief. For a long moment, Earth was silent. Families sat in their homes staring at the sky. Children asked their parents what it meant. Soldiers clenched their fists but said nothing. Leaders of nations sat in closed rooms, unsure of what to do. The message was too big, too final, but then something began to rise inside the human heart. A small spark, soft at first but growing brighter with every second. It was anger. The Zeroth Dominion had made a mistake. They thought humans were weak. They thought Earth would fall like every other world. But humanity had been underestimated before. History was full of conquerors who tried to break them. Empires had come and gone. Tyrants had demanded surrender, and invaders had raised their banners. But always humanity resisted. Always they stood tall. From ancient wars fought with swords and shields to battles fought with fire and steel, humans had carried one truth: they would not bow. No matter how strong the enemy, no matter how heavy the chains, there was always someone who stood and said no. Now the galaxy itself demanded submission, and humanity answered not with fear but with defiance. In the streets of Earth's cities, people gathered together. They shouted, they cried, they held each other close. Yet in every voice there was the same word repeated again and again: never. On the other side of the world, in great halls of power, leaders spoke to one another. Old enemies sat across from each other, remembering wars that once divided them. But this was no longer about nations, no longer about flags. This was about humanity itself. And for the first time, every voice agreed: Earth would not kneel. In military bases hidden deep underground, secret fleets stirred. For decades, Earth had prepared for the unknown. In secret shipyards, vessels had been built not for exploration, but for defense. Engines hummed. Cannons were armed. Crews stood ready. Humanity had waited for this moment longer than the Zeroth Dominion could imagine. Still, fear lingered in the hearts of many. Parents held their children and prayed. Soldiers wrote letters they might never send. Leaders stared at the stars, wondering if they had just signed the death of their species. The weight of the galaxy pressed down on Earth, but humanity's spirit did not break. Instead, it hardened. They would not kneel. They would rise, and when they rose, the stars themselves would shake. The message from the Zeroth Dominion had shaken Earth, but it had also done something the aliens never expected. It united humanity. For centuries, humans had fought among themselves. Nations had clashed, ideologies had divided, and peace had always been fragile. But when the Dominion demanded Earth's surrender, all those old wounds seemed to fade. Leaders who once sat as rivals now stood as allies. Enemies of yesterday became brothers and sisters of today. Humanity understood one truth: if they did not stand together, they would fall apart. In a grand assembly, the leaders of every nation gathered. The room was filled with tension but also determination. They formed the Terran Assembly, a single voice to speak for all of Earth. The decision was not debated for long. The choice was simple: kneel or fight. They chose to fight. Yet Earth was not unprepared. Unknown to the galaxy, humanity had been building in silence for decades. Hidden in deserts, buried under oceans, orbiting in secret stations, vast shipyards had worked day and night. Humanity had dreamed of peace but prepared for war, and from those hidden places the world's greatest secret was revealed: the Black Armada. It was not just a fleet. It was a storm. Thousands of warships, each one painted in dark alloys that seemed to swallow the light of the stars. Their hulls looked like shadows given shape. Their engines roared like thunder, and their weapons glowed with the fire of a new dawn. These ships were not designed to intimidate with beauty, but to crush with fear. When the first of them rose from the seas, people gathered along the coasts to watch. Black warships rising out of the waves like sleeping giants, their hulls dripping with water, their cannons gleaming in the sun. From the deserts, others emerged, lifting into the sky with trails of fire, and high above, from behind the dark side of the moon, massive carriers revealed themselves, hidden in silence for years. The world stared in awe. Children cheered. Soldiers saluted. Families cried, knowing that these ships were their shield, their hope, and their sword. At the heart of this mighty force was the flagship, a colossal warship named Oblivion. It was larger than any ship humanity had ever built, bristling with weapons powerful enough to shatter moons. Its black hull reflected nothing, as if it were carved from night itself. Captain Elias Rane, a man hardened by years of service, was chosen to command it. He was not the strongest nor the loudest, but he carried something greater, unshakable resolve. His crew trusted him, not because of rank, but because of the fire in his voice whenever he spoke of Earth. On the day of the Armada's unveiling, Captain Rane stood before the Terran assembly. His voice echoed not only in the chamber, but across every broadcast, reaching every corner of the world. The Dominion believes we are weak. They believe humanity will kneel. They are wrong. We will not kneel. We will rise. We will show the galaxy who we are. And when the Zeroth look upon us, they will see not a frightened world, but an unbreakable force, the Black Armada. His words struck deep into the hearts of all who listened. Across Earth, people raised their fists and shouted. Soldiers slammed their hands to their chests. Children cried out the name of the Armada with pride. But behind the pride was also fear. Every family knew that war was coming. Every soldier understood that many would not return. Mothers hugged their children tighter. Fathers gave long looks of farewell. The cost of defiance would be heavy. Yet no one asked to kneel. Not a single voice asked for surrender. The storm was gathering, the Black Armada was ready, and soon the galaxy would hear the roar of humanity's answer. The Zeroth Dominion did not wait long. When their command to kneel was ignored, they came with fire. Their fleets arrived in Earth's orbit like a storm of steel and light. Thousands of alien warships, each one larger than a city, filled the night sky. Their silver hulls gleamed, their cannons burned, and their presence darkened the stars. People on Earth looked up in silence. From mountains, from towers, from the open fields, humanity saw the alien fleet above their world. It was as if the heavens had turned against them. Some wept, some prayed, but most clenched their fists and whispered the same word. Fight. The Dominion commander's voice thundered across every channel once more. This is your final chance. Kneel now or watch your planet burn. But humanity did not answer with words. From the dark side of the moon, from hidden bases buried beneath oceans, from silent stations drifting in the void, the Black Armada revealed itself. One by one, black warships emerged. First in dozens, then in hundreds, then in thousands. Their dark hulls swallowed the light, their engines glowed like fire, and their cannons charged with thunder. In moments, Earth's orbit was filled not only with alien invaders, but with humanity's defenders. The silence of space broke when Captain Elias Rane's voice cut across the battlefield. He stood on the bridge of the Oblivion, his eyes fixed on the enemy fleet. His words were not for Earth alone, they were for the entire galaxy. You told us to kneel. Instead we rise. And today we fight not as one nation, not as many, but as humanity. Come, Dominion, come and see who we are. And then, the first shot was fired. From the Oblivion, a beam of searing energy cut across the void, striking a Dominion warship. The alien vessel shook, its silver hull splitting, and in a flash of light it exploded. Cheers erupted across Earth, from soldiers in bunkers to families watching the skies. For the first time, humanity had drawn blood from the galaxy's conquerors. The battle exploded in fury. Dominion ships unleashed torrents of fire, beams slicing through the void, missiles burning like falling stars. The Black Armada answered with equal fury, their cannons roaring, their warheads cutting through shields, their fighters swarming like furious hornets. Space became a storm. Ships clashed and died, explosions painting the heavens with fire. The Earth below saw streaks of light racing across the night, as if 1,000 meteors were falling at once. Human warships were smaller, less advanced, but they were not weaker. Pilots fought with courage that machines could not match. Crews pushed their vessels beyond limits, refusing to break. Where one ship fell, 3 more rose in its place. On the bridge of the Oblivion, alarms blared as enemy fire rained down. Captain Ronnie stood firm, shouting orders with a calm voice. His crew moved with discipline, their fear buried under loyalty and resolve. Every man and woman on that ship knew the truth. This was not just a battle for Earth. It was a battle for humanity's right to exist. Hours passed like moments. Wreckage filled the void, human and alien alike. But slowly something remarkable happened. The Dominion, so used to easy victories, began to falter. Their perfect lines broke. Their formations wavered. They had expected Earth to kneel. Instead, they found themselves bleeding. And when the second Dominion battleship was destroyed, and then the third, a whisper spread even among the enemy ranks. The humans. They fight like demons. At last, as dawn rose on Earth below, the first wave of the Dominion fleet retreated. Their mighty armada, built to terrify, had been forced back. Humanity had not won the war, but they had won something greater, their first stand. The people of Earth looked to the sky with tears in their eyes. For the first time since the message from the stars, they felt hope. The Dominion had come to break them, but humanity had answered with fire, and the galaxy had seen the truth. Earth did not kneel. The first victory over Earth's orbit filled humanity with pride, but the war was far from over. The Zeroth Dominion did not forgive, and they did not forget. They had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years, crushing countless civilizations. A single defeat would not break them, it would only enrage them. And so the Dominion struck again. But this time, they did not come only for Earth. They spread their fury across the solar system. On Mars, red dust rose as alien warships descended. Colonies that had been built with sweat and sacrifice came under attack. Domes shattered, fires spread, and pioneers who had dreamed of a new home found themselves in the middle of war. On Europa, where icy oceans hid human research bases, Dominion cruisers bombarded the frozen surface. Ice cracked like glass and the colonies below shook with fear. Scientists who had spent their lives studying the stars now rushed to defend their families with rifles in their hands. On Titan, the skies burned orange as alien strike forces landed, cutting through defenses with ruthless precision. Settlers who had once farmed the methane-rich lands now fought in the streets, refusing to surrender their new world. Everywhere the Dominion struck, grief followed. Families on Earth received desperate messages from loved ones far away. Some messages were short cries for help. Others were final goodbyes. Tears filled homes, but alongside the sorrow, anger grew hotter. Humanity's leaders knew they could not allow fear to spread. The Black Armada was divided into strike groups, each one sent to defend a different frontier. The fleet that had once hidden now stretched its wings across the solar system. Captain Elias Ronnie and the Oblivion were sent toward Mars. His voice, steady and strong, echoed to his crew. They burn our homes, our colonies, our families. But every fire they light will be answered by a storm. We are the Black Armada. We are humanity's shield, and today we become their sword. When the Oblivion arrived near Mars, the crew saw destruction. The red planet's surface was littered with craters and smoke. Dominion warships circled the skies like predators. But as the Black Fleet entered orbit, the tide began to turn. Human warships moved with precision, their dark hulls blending into the void. Fighters screamed across the battlefield, weaving between alien beams of fire. Missiles struck enemy carriers, tearing them apart in bursts of light. One by one, the Dominion ships fell, their confidence broken by human fury. On the ground, colonists who had nearly given up looked to the skies and saw the Black Armada above. Their sorrow turned to hope. They raised their weapons, joining the fight, their hearts burning with courage. Humanity was not only surviving, they were fighting back. The battle for Mars lasted hours, but when the last Dominion warship exploded, cheers echoed across the colonies. Red dust rose higher than ever as humans stood together, scarred but unbroken. Yet even in victory, the cost was heavy. Hundreds of human ships were damaged and many were destroyed. Names of the fallen filled long lists, read aloud in sorrowful halls. Families cried, soldiers grieved, and Earth's skies seemed dimmer with every sacrifice. But in that grief, resolve only grew stronger. Humanity had always paid the price of freedom. They had done so in their history, and now they were doing it again, only this time on the scale of stars. The Dominion began to realize something terrifying. These humans were not like the others they had conquered. They did not surrender when beaten. They did not break when burned. Instead, every loss made them fight harder, fiercer, stronger. The war was spreading. The fire was everywhere. But through the smoke and sorrow, one truth became clear. Humanity would never kneel. They would rise higher, burn brighter, and fight until the stars themselves trembled. The Black Armada had struck back with fury. Mars was saved, Europa defended, Titan freed. For the first time in history, humanity was fighting not for land, not for nations, but for survival itself. And they were winning battles. But victory came with a price. The wreckage of human warships drifted in the void, silent tombs for brave men and women. Families across Earth and the colonies received messages that froze their hearts. Some messages were short, only a few broken words from dying soldiers. Others were lists of names, long scrolls of the fallen read by trembling voices. The Black Armada was strong, but not unbreakable. The Dominion had centuries of war behind them, and they fought with merciless power. Every time humanity celebrated a victory, the shadow of loss followed close behind. On the flagship Oblivion, the scars of battle were clear. Its once flawless black hull was cracked, burned, and torn. Fires had been put out, but the smell of smoke lingered in the halls. Crew members walked with heavy steps, their uniforms stained with oil, blood, and exhaustion. Some limped, others carried wounds, yet all refused to leave their posts. Captain Elias Rane stood in the command chamber, looking at the reports of the dead. Each name written on the screen felt like a knife in his chest. He remembered their faces, their laughter, their courage. He had promised to lead them, and so many had not returned. The crew felt it too. Silence filled the ship more than voices. Meals were eaten quickly, words kept short, eyes cast downward. It was not fear that haunted them, but grief. Captain Rane knew he had to speak. He gathered his crew in the central hangar. Pilots, engineers, soldiers, and medics all stood together, some with bandages, some leaning on each other for strength. Their eyes were tired, but they lifted them to their captain. Rane stood before them, his uniform torn, his voice quiet but steady. "I will not lie to you," he began. "We have lost many, too many. Fathers, mothers, sons, daughters, friends. Their names will not be forgotten, nor their courage. Every ship we lose, every life we bury is a wound carved into our hearts." He paused, his eyes sweeping across the crowd. Tears glistened in the eyes of his crew, but no one looked away. "The Dominion believes this will break us," he continued, his voice rising. "They think death will crush our spirit, that grief will make us kneel. But hear me, every loss we suffer is not defeat. It is proof. Proof that humanity never bows. Proof that we fight even when the stars themselves fall against us." His voice thundered now, echoing against the steel walls. "We are not just soldiers. We are humanity's answer. When the Dominion demanded we kneel, we stood. When they burned our colonies, we fought back. And when they come again, we will rise from our grief stronger than before. Because that is who we are. We are human."
And we never kneel.
The hangar shook with the roar of voices. The crew shouted, their grief turning into fire. Soldiers lifted their fists. Pilots raised their helmets. Engineers pounded their tools against the floor. In that moment, sorrow became strength and despair became fury. Across Earth and the colonies, similar scenes unfolded. Factories worked day and night, building more ships. Young men and women lined up to volunteer, ready to fight even if it meant death. Families carried their pain with pride, whispering, "They died standing. They died human." The Dominion had hoped to break humanity's spirit with blood and fire. Instead, they had forged something unshakable. The cost of defiance was high. The pain was heavy. But humanity bore it, and from that pain a new promise was born. No matter how many ships fell, no matter how many names were lost, Earth would never kneel. The war had dragged on for months. Every battle was costly, every victory painful. But the Zeroth Dominion was not finished. They had ruled the galaxy for ages, and they refused to let a single world defy them. So they gathered a force unlike anything humanity had ever seen. From the depths of the stars, the Grand Armada came. It was 10 times larger than the fleets that had attacked before. It filled the void like a wall of fire, stretching from one horizon to the other. Each ship bristled with weapons capable of destroying moons. Their formation was perfect, their confidence unshaken. When the people of Earth saw the enemy fleet, fear touched their hearts again. Cities fell into silence. Colonies whispered prayers. Even some soldiers felt the weight of despair. Could humanity truly stand against this storm? On the flagship Oblivion, Captain Elias Rane stood in the command chamber staring at the endless wave of enemy ships. His crew waited for his words, their faces pale but determined. Rane spoke slowly, his voice calm but filled with iron. They believe this fleet will crush us. They believe numbers alone will make us kneel. But they do not understand us. Humanity does not break. We do not kneel. And today they will learn fear. For hidden within the Black Armada was a secret the Dominion had never seen. From the shadows of space, new warships emerged. They were larger than destroyers, darker than night itself. Their hulls bent the light around them, vanishing into the void until the moment they struck. These were the Eclipse-class warships, humanity's deadliest creation. For months they had been hidden, waiting for this moment. Now they moved like phantoms across the battlefield, invisible until they opened fire. When the Grand Armada advanced, the trap was sprung. The Eclipse ships appeared out of the darkness, tearing through Dominion lines. Beams of energy ripped enemy warships in half before they even knew where the attack had come from. Explosions filled the void, burning brighter than suns. The Dominion's perfect formation shattered. Their captains shouted orders, but panic spread. They were not fighting soldiers anymore. They were fighting shadows, demons that struck and vanished. Human pilots fought with unmatched fury. Small fighters dove between massive warships, striking engines and weak points with deadly precision. Crews aboard frigates and carriers pushed their ships beyond limits, engines screaming, weapons firing until they glowed white-hot. The Oblivion itself cut into the heart of the enemy fleet, its black cannons unleashing storms of fire. On its bridge, Captain Rane stood tall, his voice guiding his crew through chaos. Every command was firm, every word filled with unshakable resolve. Outside, space was no longer silent. It was alive with fire and steel. The Dominion, who had crushed countless civilizations before, now faltered against a species they had thought unworthy. For the first time in their long history, the conquerors felt something unfamiliar: fear. From Earth below, people watched the night sky. Streaks of light flashed across the heavens, some falling like meteors, others burning bright as stars. Families held hands, whispering, "That is us. That is humanity." The battle raged for hours, but slowly the tide turned. Dominion ships that had once moved with confidence now fled in disarray. Their mighty Grand Armada, once unshakable, now burned in the void. When the last Dominion cruiser exploded, cheers erupted across Earth and every colony. Tears filled the eyes of mothers, fathers, and children as they realized they were not helpless. They were not prey. They were warriors, survivors, and defenders of their home. The Black Armada stood scarred, many ships damaged, many lives lost, but they had done the impossible. They had taken the storm of the galaxy and broken it. Captain Rane looked at the stars, his voice quiet but strong. This is not the end. But today humanity has shown the galaxy who we are. We are the shadow in the void. We are the fire that never dies. We are human, and we never kneel. The great battle was over. The Dominion's Grand Armada had been shattered, their mighty ships burning as wreckage across the stars. Space was silent again, but the silence was not peace. It was the silence after thunder, the silence of a storm that had passed. Humanity had survived. But survival had come at a terrible price. The Black Armada was scarred. Many ships drifted damaged, their black hulls torn and smoking. Thousands of men and women had given their lives. On Earth and across the colonies, families wept for those who would never return. Every victory carried the weight of grief, and the names of the fallen were spoken in voices trembling with pride and sorrow. Yet even in mourning, humanity stood taller than ever before. They had faced the galaxy's conquerors and refused to bow. They had fought not as one nation, not as many, but as one people. And in their defiance, they had won something greater than a battle. They had won their place among the stars. The Zeroth Dominion, proud rulers of 10,000 worlds, sent one last message. But this time it was not filled with arrogance. This time there was confusion, disbelief, and even a shadow of fear. "You are only one world," the Dominion's voice echoed. "One fragile world among countless stars. How do you resist us? How do you fight against an empire that has broken thousands before you?" On the bridge of the flagship Oblivion, Captain Elias Rane listened in silence. Around him his crew stood battered but unbroken. Their uniforms were torn, their faces marked with exhaustion, but their eyes burned with fire. They waited for their captain's reply. Rane rose slowly from his chair. He looked out into the void where the Dominion's ships once stood. His voice, calm but powerful, carried across every channel. "You call us one world, but you are wrong. We are more than one world. We are billions of voices, billions of hearts, billions of lives beating together as one. You cannot understand us because you think strength is in numbers, in fleets, in weapons. But our strength is in spirit, and spirit cannot be broken." He stepped closer to the comms, his voice rising with each word. "You told us to kneel. Instead, we stood. You burned our homes. Instead, we fought harder. You took our lives. Instead, we turned grief into fire. That is who we are. That is humanity." Across Earth, across Mars, Europa, and Titan, people listened. Farmers, workers, children, and soldiers, every heart beat faster as they heard his words. Families embraced, tears in their eyes, knowing their pain was not in vain. Humanity had spoken and the galaxy was listening. "We do not kneel," Rane thundered. "We rise, and if you return, if you come again with your fleets and your fire, you will face us once more. You will face the Black Armada, and we will show you again what it means to fight humanity." Silence followed. The Dominion fleet, broken and humiliated, retreated into the dark of space. For the first time in their long history, they fled from a world they could not conquer. On Earth, the people cheered. The night sky lit with celebrations, cities glowing brighter than the stars. On Mars, colonists raised their banners high. On Europa, survivors sang songs of hope. And on Titan, children shouted the name of the Armada with voices full of pride. The war was not over. Humanity knew the Dominion might return, stronger and angrier. But one truth had already been written in fire and blood. The galaxy had seen humanity. And humanity had proven they were not prey, not servants, not weak. They were a force that could not be broken. Captain Rane stood once more at the window of the Oblivion, his eyes on the endless stars. Behind him, his crew worked in silence, tired but proud. He whispered almost to himself, yet his words carried the weight of a promise to all of Earth. The day they ordered us to kneel was the day humanity rose, and the galaxy would never forget it.